If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe. Welcome to this 12th episode of the Spidey Cast. So today I want to talk about Batman. I was going to talk about Spider-Man, and how I feel about his actors in the movies and what I think about him. But I'm going to save that for another video. And it's also potential actors that could be Spider-Man. I want to do that for the later episode, but today we're going to talk about Batman because I'm in the mood to talk about Batman. And I guess I won't just be talking about actors, I'll be talking about versions of Batman. The first version of Batman we're going to talk about is Adam West. You know him, you'll love him. He's funny, he's charming, he's a very hopeful figure, but he's in a very goofy series. And obviously it was mostly about jokes and puns and surfing contests and shark repellent and, Robin being goofy all the time and saying, holy Batman, like random things, insert holy, and then he would say a word and then Batman. That was the whole formula with his character's joke lines, like, holy sardine Batman. Holy bucket Batman. That was this thing. It was a very goofy, colorful show, very much a hallmark of the Silver Age comics, which were very, like I said, goofy, couldn't take them seriously, censored extremely heavily. I mean, they literally used bam, pow, and wham every time they punched, so you wouldn't see hits connecting, so the networks could put the show on the TV. That's how censor-heavy the 60s were with superheroes. And that's unfortunate because I firmly think that Adam West could have been a serious Batman. I think that there's a world in the multiverse where Adam West was a detective, a serious, hard-boiled detective, has a very dark backstory, but he's a more hopeful Batman. But he's also tracking down mobsters, gangsters, mob bosses, crime lords. He's not going after colorful costumed characters because, I'm sorry, the Joker, the Riddler, the Penguin, and even Two-Face at that time were not very serious characters at all, even Mr. Freeze. Batman the Animated Series invented that tragic backstory for that character. I don't think Two-Face was around at that time, but I could be wrong. But they weren't very serious characters. Very serious threats because of the crazy amounts of censorship that they had. And the Silver Age was just a goofy era where anyone could cross over into anyone's comic book and anything could go. Anything goofy or fun or charming could go on. And it's a good era. I'm glad it exists. But mark my words, I think Adam West could have been a serious Batman in a detective investigative story that's less over the top and more about investigation, has some fight scenes, but it isn't colorful or crazy or wacky. I think he could have been a serious Batman, personally. Now we're moving on to my favorite Batman of all time, Michael Keaton. Of course, obviously, for me, the ones that tie with Michael Keaton as my favorite are animated series, Arkham, and the Batman 2004 Batman. Gotta say 2004 or people will think you're talking about Robert Pattinson. And I'm not talking about Robert Pattinson. But Michael Keaton brought that brooding, dark, tormented, psychological aspect of Batman that made him such an incredible character. Anytime he was dressed in that costume on screen, my jaw dropped, and it still does when he reveals himself to those two thugs on the rooftops, and they riddle him with bullets, and they think he's dead, but he stands back up because of the bulletproof armor, and then he looks like this mythological figure standing up and extending the bat wings on his costume. He's terrifying, imposing. He fits this dark, brooding character personality-wise, and as Bruce Wayne, he's charming, but he's also distant, antisocial, and he's a much more interesting character, in my opinion, when he's that way. He can turn on the charm when he needs to, but he'd rather be in the Batcave being Batman because that's who he is. Bruce Wayne is the mask. Batman is who he really is, and that's how the character should be. I disagree with people who say that Bruce Wayne should be the actual person. It's Batman that is, not Bruce Wayne. Batman represents his true person behind closed doors, by himself, with his close loved ones. He's not some rich playboy. He's Batman. Intelligent, smart, and cunning. That's how Batman is in this movie. He fits the animated style of Batman that the personality that he had carried on into later in Batman the Animated Series. So Keaton was a very influential figure for Batman, and I firmly believe it is on his shoulders and Tim Burton's that we have to thank for the fact that Batman didn't fade out into obscurity as a joke. Not that I don't like the Silver Age, but he made Batman serious and interesting again, like the 40s comics back in the day. So hats off to Michael Keaton for being a serious, dark, imposing figure who made Batman something different. He made Batman serious again, a hero to be taken seriously, a man with a crusade, devoted, trying to help Gotham, a destroyed city. I honestly wish that Joel Schumacher's movies didn't happen. I wish that Keaton would have stayed Batman and Burton would have stayed director. I firmly think the character would have had a couple more years of success and wouldn't be treated like some kind of joke. Now, the animated series obviously helped with that not being the case, but with Keaton gone, the live action movie started to suck. Now, I haven't watched Kilmer's. Now we're going to talk about George Clooney. Now, this guy tried to bring back Adam West's energy, but completely failed in realizing what made that charming. Schumacher did a horrible job with this Batman. And the funny part is them trying to bring back that style that Adam West did for movies was kind of outdated. It was bad. It only worked for West because he was in the Silver Age. If Adam West was made nowadays, he'd be considered too goofy, like a parody of the character. People may still enjoy him because he is genuinely a good actor, and I still would too, but it doesn't fit the modern theme of Batman. Him being goofy again, him being not serious, him pulling out back credit cards and saying, "Hey, Freeze, I'm Batman," in his Bruce Wayne voice, no less. And then there's the matter of them putting nipples on the Batsuit. Yes, nipples. Joel Schumacher was a weird guy. The only thing I liked about the movie was Batgirl because she was attractive. Everything else about it was absolutely terrible. It's not watchable by any means. If you want to get a laugh, sure, but if you want an actual Batman that's competent and interesting, you're not going to be interested. Clooney's Batman's more of an airhead than Adam West's is. He doesn't feel as intelligent. He feels more foolhardy. He doesn't have that intelligence or charm or suaveness that Adam West had. Adam West I could see being a charming Bruce Wayne and a charming Batman. Kind of a Bruce Wayne in a costume type deal, where Batman and Bruce Wayne are the same. And that's what I like about him. It works for Adam West. In this, it doesn't, because he has a costume that's all black. It's trying to kind of be serious, looks-wise. You can tell the artists could pull those costumes off in a serious Batman movie. So it's very jarring when a guy with nipples shows up and says all these goofy things that don't fit the character. And then his relationship with Robin is atrocious. Adam West's Robin was more of a son type to him. In this, he's this edgy teenager who hates Batman and doesn't want to be associated with him. He felt like the rich idiot persona that Batman's putting on, but he's not putting on the persona. He is the persona. He felt dumb. He felt aloof. He felt immature and disinteresting as a character. And that's my problem with Clooney. Look, here's the thing. It's fun to laugh at. It feels like a parody. And they succeeded at that. But I didn't come here for a parody for Batman. I want serious, dark Batman, not parody Batman. The only person who could pull that off was Adam West. And I still think he could have been serious, like I said before. And because of what Joel Schumacher did, Batman was kind of in a tough spot. The only thing that people really appreciated with the character was the animated series, but live action wise, he was a complete joke. And people didn't take Batman seriously anymore, excluding Keaton in the animated versions. That all changed when Christopher Nolan came to bat, pun intended. Christian Bale was the first British actor to play Batman, I believe. I didn't watch the old black and white serial, so I don't necessarily know if the actor in those was British, but regardless, Christian Bale was a breath of fresh air in Batman Begins. He brought back the intimidation. He brought back the serious, dark, crusade-driven man who's deeply troubled by the death of his parents and can't let it go. So he builds this crusade around their deaths to make Gotham a better place, and they sell it really well in his character. He very much fits that tough, intimidating, scary Batman. He beats the crap out of criminals. He scares the crap out of them, popping up out of nowhere behind him like a ghost. He feels like a terror of the night. And that's what's so good about his character. He brought back the fear of the Bat. He brought back that dark character, tormented by the death that made him who he is. And as Bruce Wayne, he was suave. He was charming. He sold the whole rich playboy philanthropist image that Bruce had, but he also kept that airheaded stupidity that he had as well. He faked it, though. It was all an act. In reality, he was a very nice, kind, caring man who was deeply troubled, trying to save a city that was falling apart at the seams because of crime and corruption. And he wanted to do something good and make a difference. He has such a strong bond with Alfred. Alfred's like a father figure to him, very caring. He's afraid for Bruce's life as he goes through this crusade, but he's also so fiercely loyal, he'll follow him to the end of the earth for his son. He cares about him deeply, more than anything. More than anyone on Earth, to be honest. I would believe that Alfred cares most about Bruce, and that's what's so good about his character. He was always there for him in his troubled times, always loyal, always understanding, always supportive. And that's what made Bruce Wayne's character enhanced, was that Alfred relationship. And Keaton didn't have that. Alfred was definitely there, but he wasn't that type of character. He wasn't that father figure, that warm father figure that this one was. This also extends to Liam Neeson as Ra's al Ghul, or Raish. I call him Raish, comic book accuracy, but he was a very motivational, caring, kind, loving father figure to Bruce as well. He genuinely cared about him and did see him like a son. He mentored him, taught him all his skills, took him in as his own. And he really felt like he tried to get Bruce to let go of the fact that he was blaming himself for his parents' death. He was rightfully telling him that it was the criminal's fault for what happened to Bruce's parents, not Bruce's. And also it was his father's fault for not being the better man, not packing a gun, not having self-defense measures, which is true. He should have defended himself. He should have protected himself. He should have had a gun on him. And Ra's rightfully called him out on that. And that's how good of a character he was. He gave Batman the skills to be Batman. Without him, the villain of the story, Bruce wouldn't be Batman. And that's such a cool dynamic to me. He's the anti-father figure, the opposite of Alfred, where he has a lot of negative traits, but at the same time, he wants to do good in Gotham. But he just wants to do it in a very extreme, bad way. Now, I will say, him killing criminals, I could care less about. I'm sorry, criminals deserve the death penalty. Maybe that's a hot take. I don't think it is, but they deserve to die, especially murderers and rapists. And Bale's voice, honestly, it was pretty good in Batman Begins. It wasn't that over the top. It felt like a good way to disguise his identity as Batman, and it felt intimidating and scary. For some reason, as the movies went on, they decided to add a filter, a voice filter. I understand it strained his voice to do that kind of dark, intimidating voice, but in the end, in the later movies, you couldn't understand what he was saying half the time. You know, just like how it should have ended, it sounded like he was gargling marvels, like they said. He very much wasn't intimidating anymore. He started having corny lines, like this city just showed you that there are people ready to believe in good. And that, my voice is strained. I have a cough drop in my throat, like I'm sucking on it because I have it in my mouth because I need to keep my throat from feeling like crap recording this, because I don't know if it's a cold or my allergies, but it's getting a bit rough. But with Bale, it was straining his voice to do that weird, gravelly, dark, intimidating tone. So they added effects, and I think that was a terrible, terrible idea. It made Batman sound goofy. I couldn't take him seriously. The first costume I thought was awesome. I don't care that he couldn't turn around. Him having his face squeezed and having his lips pucker like a fish was way worse than him not being able to turn. He looked way cooler in Batman Begins. Him having the mask squeeze his face so hard that he couldn't breathe was also another very dumb idea, in my opinion, that Christopher Nolan introduced for his Batman. And I feel bad for Christian Bale because it made his performance worse. It genuinely did. He got worse as the movies went on. He felt goofier, more over the top. And I feel like Keaton stayed more consistent. And the animated versions too. But I still like Christian Bale in Batman Begins. I still think he's up there as one of the greats in that movie specifically. And I think Batman Begins is better than the entire Nolan trilogy. I don't like The Dark Knight or The Dark Knight Rises. And we'll do an episode about that. I was not a fan of those movies. I didn't care about Heath Ledger's Joker. Sue me. I didn't care about Bane. You know, Tom Hardy as Bane. Sue me. But that's for a later episode. Didn't watch any of Ben Affleck's stuff or any of Pattinson's stuff. I feel like, to me, they were disinteresting for Batman. I don't think they were perfect choices for the characters. I think you could have picked better actors, but DC was kind of struggling movie-wise anyways during that time period. I was more of a fan, and still am more of a fan, of the animated versions. The most iconic Batman for me are the animated ones and the video game ones. I'm sorry, people who grew up with the movies. I grew up with the animated versions, animated series, Batman 2004, and the Arkham games. Those are my Batman. Kevin Conroy's Batman is absolutely incredible. The best in every aspect. And I'm being honest. He is so good as Batman, as the voice. He's not just a voice. In Arkham Asylum, he feels like a real person. But for the animated series, he was a very dark, brooding character. Batman was obviously who he was underneath the mask, but he still had a very caring nature. He was very calm and caring and intelligent, but at the same time, he was absolutely terrifying to criminals. He could be intimidating. He did interrogate criminals to get them to talk. He was a very rough and tumble Batman, and that's what I liked about him. The acting chops on Conroy, and I'm not even joking, are the best that any actor has ever brought to Batman and to any superhero. I'm just being honest. He is the greatest version of this character, and in general, the greatest version of a superhero character to ever live. And I know that's a big, massive claim to make, but I'm just being honest. It's true. He made Batman who he is. When I think of Batman, I hear his voice. He is an iconic version of the character and will never be forgotten. In Arkham Asylum, he made him even darker and even more interesting. He still had that calm, caring, and intelligent side to him, but he was darker. He broke limbs. He was very intimidating. He would interrogate thugs, break their limbs, and when he interrogated people, he didn't get angry. He had a very calm voice, which was terrifying. He wasn't just screaming in their faces like Bale. He was completely calm and to the point with them. And they were terrified because he was this giant dude. He was this dude in a giant bat suit, steroid muscled up, holding them over a ledge by the throat. He's terrifying, especially in Arkham. He's willing to joke around. He trusts his allies. He's very confident. He's very wise. You know, he's obviously been Batman for a long time by the time of Arkham Asylum. I think for 10 years he's been Batman. And you can see it. He feels like a professional. And that's what I love about him in Arkham Asylum. Arkham Asylum Batman is better than the animated series version. He doesn't have any emotional baggage to a strong degree. Yes, obviously the death of his parents affects him, but he feels the most on top of things in that game. The problem with the later Arkham games is the writers let Batman become over-the-top emotional, and it doesn't fit this version of the character. I could see it for the animated series version, but this guy getting bent out of shape and disturbed by something? No, he'd move on. He is so brutal and intense, and he's so focused on his mission that nothing can faze him, and that's what I like about him. You know, he cares about people. He's sad when he sees that Joker slaughtering every single Arkham employee left and right, but he's not going to let it emotionally affect him. If Barbara Gordon died, yes, he would be sad, but he wouldn't let it get in front of his mission. He wouldn't let it get in the way of it. He would continue that mission until he died. Until he was too old to be Batman, he would continue. And I firmly believe that in this version. Batman is who he is. He does not care about Bruce Wayne in the slightest. And that's what I love about this version of the character. He's more brutal, he's more intimidating, he's tougher, he breaks limbs, he interrogates in very deadly ways, he strikes fear by being very physically imposing. He's easily the best Batman of all time, Arkham Batman is. In the later games, they started making him make rookie mistakes. Freaking Harley Quinn, of all characters, gets the drop on him, hitting him in the head with a baseball bat because Joker fakes his death, and Batman's stupid enough to drop his guard and walk up to his supposed dead body. But still, he's such a great character, and I will always love his version of Batman. I think Arkham Asylum was the peak of Batman writing in general, personally. Batman wasn't some overtly emotional wreck who had a bunch of trauma and damage that he dumps onto other people that affects his crusade. No, the crusade is his life, the mission is his life, and he won't let anything get in the way of it. And that's the best part about his character. And then we have Rino Romano, another great version of Batman. Now this one is more interesting because he has an actual equal balance between Bruce Wayne and Batman. Batman is who he is, but Bruce Wayne is still important to him as well. He feels like a human being under that cowl. He's not just a mythological figure. When he puts it on, he is. But underneath, he is kind of Bruce Wayne. He's like a hybrid between the two. They're in harmony with each other, which I like about him. He's obviously very intimidating as Batman, very dark, and still has that same amount of trauma, but it feels like it affects him less. And he uses it more in a positive way, as an inspiration to help other people. He's not just a brooding dark figure, he's a public figure. He enjoys being public, he enjoys being Bruce Wayne, he enjoys seeing people, and he enjoys being out in the daytime, not just being in his cave all day, which is nice. I like that he's kind of a different version of the character. Trusts his allies more, trusts other people more. And he also, to me, is tied with Kevin Conroy. He's tied. He's incredible. He's different. I think Batman vs. Dracula is one of the greatest animated movies of all time. His version of Batman's an insane martial artist. You can tell he's skilled. You can tell that he's on top of things just like the other Batman. But you also get to see his beginning years where he really struggles to become the Dark Knight. But I like that about him. He feels more vulnerable, but not in a stupid way. And I think seasons 1 and 2 of The Batman are incredible. And I also think that Batman vs. Dracula is the best Batman movie of all time, along with Mask of the Phantasm. Now we're going to talk about Roger Craig Smith. Now, this guy is the successor to Kevin Conroy. When I saw the trailer for Arkham Origins, I thought he was the same voice actor. I thought that was him. I thought they brought him back. And a lot of people complained about him being the character because he wasn't Kevin. But to me, he sounded like Kevin. He had the same acting beats, the same mannerisms, and the same personality as Batman. He's within that Kevin Conroy box, acting-wise. And if anyone else could portray this character that way, it's him. He is terrifying as Batman. He is a perfect representation of Arkham Batman in his younger stages, where he's more insecure, where he's having more troubles fighting his foes, where he has fights with Alfred about why he's doing this. A lot of the scenes between him and Alfred are very emotional. Alfred's very concerned that he's losing his son to the darkness of the city and how messed up it is, and the darkness of his past. And it's very emotional. Alfred's calling him out, saying, hey, maybe you'd want to retire and stop doing all this crazy stuff. You've done good for Gotham, but maybe we can move on and do something different. Maybe you can stay safe. I don't want you to get killed. I don't want you to waste your life on what he saw as a pointless crusade. But when Bruce proved him wrong and showed him that he's doing this because he cares about the people of Gotham, then Alfred started to realize he was being selfish in a lot of ways. And I like that dynamic between the two. Not one person is fully right. Batman does have a bit of an ego, but it is relatively in check. And that's what I like about him. He's able to squash that ego fast and be professional when he's out in the field and do what he has to do to get the job done. He's still deep down a very kind, caring, and like I said, I say this a lot, understanding person. And he wants to help the city. And you can feel that in Roger's performance. He's got that threatening nature of Arkham Asylum Batman, terrifying criminals and basically beating the crap out of them, giving the superstitious and cowardly lot something to fear. And that's what I like about his character. Yes, he jokes around too. He still has that sense of humor that the later Batman does. In fact, I think Arkham Asylum and Origins are the most connected games in terms of the way the character acts. You can tell that this is what that Batman started out as 10 years ago. In my opinion, it perfectly connects. He has the same mannerisms. He just has a little bit more ego, and at the same time, he makes a bit more mistakes. But in Arkham Asylum, he softens those edges and all that stuff, and he finally becomes the Batman he was meant to be. He was still great in Origins, but he became the confident, experienced hero. And that's what Arkham Shadow brought. That was kind of the bridge between the two, the real bridge. And the funny part is, I already mistook him for Conroy in the trailer, but in Arkham Shadow, Roger sounds exactly like him. He wasn't just playing in the box of Conroy anymore. He was becoming that version of Batman, like fully becoming that version of Batman. And I liked that. He did a dead-on Conroy impression. He sounded so much more like him. You could tell he was operating in that range for Batman. It was dead on. He had that charisma. He had that intimidation. He had that fear factor. He felt like that symbol that Conroy's Batman was, and Keaton's was before him. Arkham Shadow is genuinely a masterpiece of a game. It takes everything I liked about Arkham Asylum with the linearity in the detail in the environments, and it basically translates that to VR. And it looks incredible, feels incredible. I wish the Arkham games stayed linear. And with that, like I said, Roger Craig Smith becomes Batman. He's no longer Roger Craig Smith, who sounds like Kevin Conroy. He is Kevin Conroy at this point. He's exact. He says, oh, you can't replace one of the greats. And I'm thinking, yes, you can. You have to replace one of the greats. It's your duty. You sound exactly like him. You've gotten to a point where your voice is so close that you are that Batman now. You can replace him. People are replaceable, and I'm sorry to say that, but especially voice actors, they can be replaceable. Okay? Like, we need new people playing these characters, and if they can get close to the originals, it's a win-win. Heck, they should put Roger in the next Arkham game. From here on out, I think Roger should become the primary Batman voice actor. If you want to do other versions, go for Reno. But if you're not going to do him, go for Roger. Roger Craig Smith needs to be the new Batman, in my opinion. He's the new Conroy. I think he should be in the next Arkham game 100%. And if he's not there, I'm going to be upset. Reno and Troy are different versions. And we'll get to Troy Baker. I think I'll put him in an episode where I discuss Telltale Batman. But we're not discussing Telltale Batman. We're discussing more traditional versions of the character. So these are the actors that I chose to talk about for this episode. When I look for a person to play Batman, I'm looking for someone who's not too bright and soft or too dark and broody. I like an in-between between the two. Now, obviously, the darker side is what I'd prefer to be more emphasized, but having a balance is nice. And I feel like all the actors that I've talked about have done that very well. There is a balance for all of them. And I like that. I want more of a detective element for Batman. I don't want him to just be punching dudes in the face. I want to see him investigate mysteries. He's a part of Detective Comics. That's what DC stands for. And he was the poster boy for it and still is. And for me, you can't have Batman without detective work. And you know what? I'm going to add Will Friedle to the pile. Him as Terry McGinnis, a successor to Batman who's completely different from Bruce, who still has the brooding nature as well, but he's more soft, he's more light, he's more jokey. And it's a nice balance. He's a bit of a punk, but his story's so captivating and his acting is so good. His emotional chops are up there with Conroy and the rest of the actors that I've listed off. He really embodies young Terry McGinnis, a guy who was just kind of thrown into the world of Batman, a delinquent thrown into responsibility. And he has this kind of charm and this macho attitude that I absolutely love. His wisecracking is absolutely hilarious. It's refreshing to see a Batman who's completely different, but similar in a lot of ways. He's kind of like Batman 2004 Batman, who kind of is a bit more of a lighter figure, who still has the brooding nature, but he also likes to balance his life with Bruce Wayne. And that's what I like about Terry McGinnis. He has those traits. He's very distinctive from Bruce. He is about the mission. It's very important to him, but so are his family and his friends. And I think it fits him more than Bruce, to be honest. Now, I do like it in Batman 2004, but it makes Terry distinct from Bruce in this world, and I enjoy him being this way. The dynamic between him and Bruce, the whole father-son thing, is very similar to him and Alfred, but old man Bruce Wayne is so cranky, and he balances out Terry's more youthful enthusiasm, but he's also still got that punk nature, and I like their dynamic. The cranky old man deals with the punky, snot-nosed teenager kind of thing, but they care about each other. They have a very deep relationship, and secretly he's Bruce's son, and that's the best part about Batman Beyond. The fact that his DNA is Bruce Wayne's. It's incredible. I disagree with people that it's a controversial twist. I think it fits. Why would his hair be black when none of his parents had black hair? Why would he have blue eyes? He looks similar to Bruce Wayne. He acts similar in some ways. Terry McGinnis is the best way you could ever write a successor character. He's related to the original. He has a relationship with the original, who's an old man now. But he is not a replacement Batman for Bruce. He's his own Batman. But the thing is, you don't have 50,000 Batman running around. You have Batman, Bruce Wayne, being too old to carry out his duties. So he passes on the mantle to a younger person. And it fits. It works. There's no DEI. He's just related to Bruce Wayne. He's not replacing him or being better than him. He's a different character. And in a lot of ways, he's very likable. He's very charming, and his acting is incredible. Will Friedle made an incredible Batman, and I will never forget Terry McGinnis. So we're going to end the episode now. I know this is shorter than usual, but I said all I could say about all the Batman actors and voice actors I liked throughout the years, and a little bit on the shows that I liked. But I can't really say anything more about this topic. I do thoroughly enjoy Batman cartoons. I'm sure there will be a part 2 to this, as with every topic I have. But regardless, God bless, Christ is King.